Alright, here we go. The Catacomb Cup, the last cup of this Silph Arena season, and as such, I'm going to spend a couple minutes talking about my team here and this meta that I like since it's pretty balanced with the types involved. Grass beats Rock, which beats Ice and Bug, both of which beat Grass, with the Bugs also super effective against Darks. That's kind of why I doubled up on Bugs with the pincer that probably wouldn't have used if I didn't already invest in it from Timeless Cup back in December, which I realize now I didn't actually make a video for. I'll probably get on that after this. But Catacombs are dark at their core for a reason, and Umbreon was number one on the initial PvPoke.com rankings for a reason. With nothing resisting dark moves and ridiculous tankiness, it makes for a perfect safe switch that generates energy super fast with Snarl and can be pretty spammy with foul play. So I invested another Elite TM in this new shiny I got that's ranked 45 actually. While I did evolve a new non-shiny one during December's Community Day weekend, I got this one last month that's even better, and being one of my favorite shiny Pokemon overall, it was an easy investment that you'll see pays off. And my other shiny, that beautiful Lapras, was really clutch as a great generalist, while Sudowoodo counters both of those with rare fighting damage in this cup that vaulted it to the current number one spot on PvPoke actually. And the rest of the team is meant to counter those big three. On other teams, which you can see in my first opponent here, Frostlass is a big threat again this month, so I bring both Lapras and Umbreon as counters to it to cover for my Sudowoodo, which I like against half of his team. And Lapras, like I said, is a good general, so I'm not really afraid of too much here, and I catch a great lead with the flying type Vespid Queen. So my Ice Shard fast move is going to be super effective. I'm anticipating a switch. I don't launch the charge move yet. Then it's Frostlass, so I can still use this charge move, do good neutral damage with Surf. And after charging up a bit, I switch into Umbreon and absorb this Shadow Ball here, which does nothing practically because Umbreon's so tanky. Then I go for the foul play that would be super effective. Get the first shield there, and I can take an Avalanche, and I'm considering going for a farm down, be pretty aggressive, but Frostlass is pretty frail. I do have to match a shield here because I'm just short of getting another Snarl to finish it off, but I have two foul plays built up for whatever comes in, and like I said, other than other dark types, nothing's going to resist dark moves, so I can safely go for this foul play, and I get the self piggyback I think here before it can get a fast move in, and I already took out like 2/3 of its health. And I tried to switch to my Sudowoodo for the fighting fast move damage from counter that'd be super effective against rock types, but got caught in animation, so he was able to get to a rock slide. Rock against rocks is just neutral, but took it out and have a rock slide ready for the Vespiquen, get that last shield. And with Lapras still having most of its health and charge move ready, it's pretty much GG's. We'll go for the Surf right away, and they'll do a decent chunk. It's really solid move, pretty fast for solid stab damage. And then I'll shield this up just in case it was a power gem, and then finish it off and take match one. Looking to the next battle, I stick with the same team but put Pseudo in the lead in case he went to his Pseudo in mirror match or stuck with Vespiquen. I'd be able to win that. But he goes with Venusaur, so the worst possible matchup for Pseudo. But this is why Umbreon is such a great safe switch. Even in a losing matchup, it can do a lot of damage and absorb a Frenzy Plant like that. And then now it had a bunch of energy charged up, so I can just go for these foul plays again. And counter on the other end is going to be doing a ton of damage, but the rock slides aren't going to be super effective. And now I'm able to get all the way to the red and turn around a losing situation because now I can come back with Sudowoodo and just counter it down to farm up some energy. And I'm almost out of rock slide there. Didn't take too much damage. I switched to Lapras just to get these super effective ice shards in. I have both shields so I can avoid a frenzy plant that would be super effective. And then I'm just chunking away, finally use some energy here, see if he'll use a shield, which he does. And then I'll commit my second shield here because this is my only win condition pretty much. Gotta farm it down with the ice shards and then have back-to-back surfs it looks like. And it's Frostlass in the back, so I need to get rid of this last shield. So I know I have Sudowoodo's Rock Slide pretty much built up. So I'm going to apply a lot of pressure with these Surfs and get that last shield there. And another Surf might have been close to taking it out. So he commits the Shadow Ball before I can get to it. Nice timing by him, but I do have that Rock Slide built up before he could use a Avalanche or anything and finish it off to take the round. GG's. Next up, I'm facing the other Elite Dark type, Zvilis, which I'm very jealous of. But with Umbreon and Lapras and Vespiquen, that makes his team pretty weak to Sudowoodo. So I lead with that and then have both Lapras and Vespiquen to check the Venusaur. So I'm hoping that won't be in the lead. But if it is, Lapras is a decent safe switch since he can threaten both Sudowoodo with Surf and Venusaur with Ice Shard. But it's a mirror match, so not really sure how to play this. I didn't do a ton of practice before this tournament. I'm gonna have to shield this rock slide, of course. And I decided to go for the self piggyback with a double up and put the pressure on him to make the decision about whether to match me in shields or let this go since he's in the red. And he does let it go. And since I have that other rock slide built up, I can still force the shield, so we're even there, and I have the switch advantage. Though he does have some energy built up, I can come in with Vespiquen and dictate the matchups. Can absorb a Sludge Bomb here because Vespiquen is pretty thick, and I'm anticipating a switch. So I save my energy and now can use a Power Gem that's double effective against the flying bug type Vespiquen, and then switch into Lapras and just farm it down with Ice Shards. Not quite able to finish it off, so I do have to take that Power Gem, but it's alright. Finish that off, and then he's going to go for the Frenzy Plant right away before I use any of that energy. So it sucks letting it go down with wasted energy, but I know I can just finish it off with Vespiquen and have that shield ready. Get his last shield with the X-Scissor. And because of that poison subtyping for Venusaur, these bug moves are just neutral, but it does enough, and it's a great counter to take the win. Next, I make a bold call after that pseudo mirror match and lead with Lapras, anticipating that he thinks I'm going to go with Venusaur to counter Sudowoodo and will bring his Vespiquen, which he does. So great matchup for me. And then I'm anticipating a switch and don't use my charge move right away. And then call the shield bait here that wasn't Power Gem. And then this was so fast I knew it was going to be X-Scissor again. But I go from this great position, get a little greedy, and I should have just used the Surf right away at this point, and then get caught up in the CMP tie. So finally I do use a shield, and then use the Surf. So I'm down with shield, so even though I'm going to have switch advantage and a lot of energy, I don't love this position that I put myself in, and then the Lapras comes in, so I go for the Skull Bash right away, and we are going to be even in shields, but he's going to be able to build up a little extra energy before finishing me off, and I did nothing with those ice shards that I double resisted. And that little bit of energy advantage comes into play here because these Surfs are, of course, super effective against a rock type Sudowoodo. So I have to use my last shield, and then I build up a little extra energy for using my rock slide in case he lets us go through, and I'll have a little bit of energy for whatever's in the back, but he commits his last shield as well. And I'm kind of close to another rock slide. I'm not sure if I'm going to survive the Surf. I barely do. Decided to switch out before I get farmed down, and he does the same thing. And luckily I did that so fast because I'm able to get the Sludge Bomb right before he does. And it's neutral damage again. Does a good amount, while Frenzy Plants would be double resisted. And here I think he might have had CMP on me, but he actually did just go for the faster Frenzy Plant. And I'm able to get this Sludge Bomb, finish it off, and then we have a crazy ending. One fast move to finish me off, but then before Sudowoodo goes down, I'm able to get to one more rock slide, take the battle. GG's. Now in this third round, I actually did while at a driving range just because our schedules were so hard to coordinate. But his team is pretty weak to Sudowoodo again, but that sleeper pick, Alolan Graveler, can cause some trouble. So I lead with Lapras and then have two things that can cover the Graveler with Sudowoodo and Venusaur, and it's opposing Venusaur to start. This is a very tight matchup. It's pretty IV dependent. I think generally in the two shields I can win it just because I wear it down with Ice Shards, and it depends whether the shield surfs or not. So after building up to the Skull Bash, I go for the Surf and get the first shield, and then I should have went back to back, but I think I got caught in duration there with a fast move, so it's a CMP tie, and I have to commit my second shield to make sure I win this lead, and then the Surf goes through. So I'm down a shield, little residual energy and some health. And surprisingly, they come with the Vespiquen that's weak against these Ice Shards. And I get to that Surf, goes unshielded, and really chunk away at it before they finally take me out with the Power Gem here. Venusaur would have no chance, so I go Sudowoodo, even though the counters are also double resisted. But it can take an X-Scissor okay, and then the Rock Slide will be able to take it out as long as it goes unshielded. Would have been a little dicey if it was shielded, but they were already in the red and wouldn't have mattered because Graveler's in the back and my counters are super effective, and then Venusaur will be able to clean it up after getting that last shield. They overfarmed a bit and then commit a little bit of energy with a Rock Blast before I get to another Rock Slide. But Venusaur resists the Volt Switches and can take a charge move that's going to be neutral no matter what. So I can finish it off and take battle 1. And since I'm ahead, I decided to get ambitious and use Pinsir with the 2 tanky generals behind it because it can beat the 2 rock types and Lapras and Xylas, but I get the terrible matchup with Vespiquen. So after charging up a little bit, I go for the safe switch of Umbreon, which is still a losing matchup, so it kind of tempts the Vespiquen to stick with it since these bug moves are super effective. And make sure Pinsir avoids this matchup at least. And gonna go for the double up, but I get caught in the Snarl duration and overcharge there, so I'm over 100 energy. And because of that, before I can get that second one in, they use their charge move. And I actually have to dedicate a shield that I wasn't planning to in this losing matchup, but I didn't want to waste this energy. And then I'm close to another one, so I'm able to get them to commit a shield as well at least. So it's not the worst situation, able to take it all the way low and turn around this losing matchup. Should have just switched to Lapras and farmed down with Ice Shard, honestly, because they overfarmed before using that energy and able to get one more X-Scissors in. But I'm able to get a little bit of energy here, and the X-Scissors didn't do too much. And it's a Venusaur, so we just saw this matchup, and this time we only have 1 shield each. So I'm going to block this Frenzy Plant, and again I'm going to charge all the way up to the Skull Bash before going for the Surf, and this time I am going to go for the back-to-back right away. So I'm going to just do enough chip damage that I can finish it off with the Ice Shard before another Frenzy Plant comes through. Barely, I think. I was even able to charge up to another Surf so I can get it below half health and then switch right away to the Pinsir. I had a little bit of energy and go for the close combat to finish it off and take the round. GG's. In the 4th round, I'm facing another Graveler to scare my Lapras, which would otherwise have pretty good matchups here, especially with the Jump Bluff being part flying, so double weak against Ice Shard. And I went back and forth for the longest time about whether to use Umbreon or Venusaur as the safe switch, but in the end I went with Venusaur since that Sludge Bomb could come in handy against the Jump Bluff, and of course is my top counter to the Graveler. My only worry really is if Lapras gets stuck in a tough matchup and then end up with Sudowoodo or Venusaur against one of the flying types, but it's Froslass to start, so I'm in a good situation, and I'm anticipating the switch so I don't use my charge move, and then I kind of hesitate about whether to use the Skull Bash there since I could actually win that Umbreon matchup, but then I go to the Sudowoodo as my obvious counter, but that hesitation let my opponent get a big energy lead and use 2 foul play, so the other end of the Umbreon safe switch, use the Rock Slide to get pretty low, but they're going to have another foul play ready and I have to commit a shield here, and I decided to just go for a farm down with counter and almost have enough energy for 2 Rock Slides, and I figure the Frost Slide is coming back in since it resists fighting moves as a ghost type, so I go for the Rock Slide right away. Then you see some lag where the Powder Snow Snart, I lose health before any energy starts building up, and then I'm not able to use that Rock Slide. So I have to come back with Lapras and use the Surf, and they're able to farm a ton of energy there, so I have to take a Shadow Ball after losing the CMP tie, and the Surf will go through now, and then I'll get the last shield, and they'll have another charge move coming through, and I knew this was an Avalanche, but I fall for the bait anyway, and then they'll switch, and I should have counter switched because there was no way I'd get to a Skull Bash, but I was too tempted by those Ice Shards shredding it. With shields down though, I should have went straight for these Venusaur Sludge Bombs instead of letting it farm up. I guess I was worried about Aerial Ace, but even super effective, it's a bad move. I tried over farming so I can get to a Frenzy Plant pretty fast against Froslass afterwards, but Jump Bluff is just too tanky. And for the first time this tournament, I'm going to have to play from behind. Well played. This time I bring both Venusaur and Umbreon, with the former as the lead, because after the Lapras and Froslass leads last battle, I'm anticipating Sudowoodo or Graveler. If it is last again, that matchup can come down to CMP, and if anything, I'll have the Umbreon safe switch with Lapras in the back that can beat it. I haven't used Venusaur as a lead at all this tournament, but with everything on the line, I end up making the right call and catch Graveler as the lead. So I'm anticipating the switch and just going to absorb these Volt Switches as I overcharge, and then I see that it's Jump Bluff come in, so I go straight for the Sludge Bomb and catch a shield, and then switch to Lapras to chunk away with these Ice Shards. I do match them in shields, figure they're not going to bait with Aerial Ace since they're about the same energy cost, and probably could have just gone with the Surf like I do against Venusaurs. Instead, I finish it, make sure I finish it off before another charge move comes, get that defense buff, but now I have to face the Graveler and use my last shield on this charge move. Defense buff means I'm at least not getting shredded by these Volt switches and be able to get to a Surf and apply some shield pressure, so we're both shieldless now. Maybe could have switched at this point, but didn't want to give up switch advantage. So I take that Rock Blast and go down, but they have a little extra energy now, so I do have to take a charge move before I can get to a Frenzy Plant, and then they make a switch to Umbreon, and I kind of panic and match them, but they have an energy lead because of that. Probably should have just gone for a Frenzy Plant, because Snarl wouldn't have taken me out that fast, but instead we're stuck in that mirror match that will make even Azumarill blush with the amount of tankiness here. And we're just going to trade last resorts, and this matchup will take a while. But in the back of my head, I know Venusaur is pretty close to a Frenzy Plant whenever the switch clock comes up. And the Graveler is probably out of energy, so they might sack it. So I'm anticipating that, and that's why I'm overcharging here, anticipating the switch. And there it is. So I'm only using the foul play here instead of wasting a little extra energy with last resort. And that's enough to take it out. And now I'm able to get to another last resort because of that. And so I'm applying pressure, make them dump some energy. Not just going to let them overcharge, finish me off, and then have another charge move ready for the Venusaur. Instead, they had to use foul play there, and then I'm going to switch right away so I don't get farmed down, and then use a Frenzy Plant and take the win. I really like this lineup because Venu and Lapras cover each other so well, and by switching them up here, I catch the lead again. And I'm anticipating the switch, so I overcharge like I've been doing, and correctly shield up a Power Gem here that would have been super effective. Now the switch comes through, and when I see the Umbreon, I kind of panic and go for the Skull Bash. I should have just switched to Venusaur right away to avoid the Vespiquen matchup, but Lapras can win this matchup by going Skull Bash first and then Surf, especially with that energy lead. I am down a shield, however, so it's going to be a little dicey. They're able to get to another foul play. It takes me to the red, and I'll go for Surf. That will take it to the red, or get the first shield there. Now this next one will take it to the red, and it's low enough that I decided to switch to Venusaur and try and Vine Whip it down, and because of that I gave up switch advantage, so I'm stuck in this Vespiquen matchup, and we both have some energy. Luckily, I chunked away pretty well with the Ice Shards for, so this Sludge Bomb will almost take it out, and I'm going to try and farm down the Vine Whip. Going to have to take one more charge move, but I'm going to have plenty of energy for what comes in next. But because it ends up being the Umbreon with loaded energy that I have to use my last shield here, I get kind of caught between a decision of trying to farm down but being worried about another foul play coming. I didn't want to use up the energy with just that little health left, so I ended up switching. And we see the Umbreon Jumpluff matchup that almost happened in the first battle if I would have brought it. And I know it doesn't have Dazzling Gleam, so the Energy Ball is not going to do too much here. I go for the double up. I end up having to take another charge move. I just want to apply a lot of pressure here to burn that last shield since I know I have the Sludge Bomb ready on Venusaur. And then they actually get a Bullet Seed in there, so I don't get the self piggyback. But this foul play will take it within range of another charge move. And then they switch, and I kind of tried counter switching, I think, but end up just using the foul play to finish it off. I think I wanted to save the switch timer to bring in Lapras to Ice Shard down, but instead take an Energy Ball. So that didn't work out, but now Umbreon can come in and get to another foul play, but they actually go for an Aerial Ace, and it's such a bad move. Well, Umbreon is so tanky that I survive, able to burn the last shield here so I can come back with Venusaur, but then time ends up running out. Luckily I had more HP, and you saw I had the charge move ready, so GG's there. So I'm undefeated going to the last round against the other undefeated team that's running Galvantula as a spicy pick. That's my main concern for Lapras lead, since even Sudowoodo I could go 2 shields with. Decided to take that chance anyway and just have Umbreon as a decent safe switch as part of the big 3 lineup with Sudowoodo. Now, if you played this past week, you'll know there were a lot of server issues causing lag in battles, and even though we delayed this round a couple days until it was supposedly fixed, well, you'll see. And ends up being Pseudo as a lead. So like I said, I can win in the 2-2 shield scenario, or if I use one more than they do. Because of that, I decided to go for the back-to-back and self-piggyback in between fast moves after shielding. But they're probably anticipating that, so when I go for the first Surf, they end up not shielding at all and just decide to take the shield advantage. It's not a bad situation for me since I have loaded energy and about a third of my health left. And they come in with Frost Blast, kind of surprisingly. I go for the Surf, and that'll take it pretty low, and I'll have another Surf ready already, so this is working out pretty well for me. We're both resisting the Ice-type fast moves, so they have to use a charge move to try and finish me off. And then this is where the issues pop up. Got some lag, and it's only an Avalanche, so I guess it doesn't finish me off, and they switch to Vespiquen to finish it. So once I figure it out, I decide to go with Sudowoodo since Rock Slide would be double effective here, and Umbreon would be weak to the bug moves. They do have that shield advantage though, and a slight energy lead, so it's gonna be interesting. Finally get that first shield, and then they had overcharged to go for a double up, so I blocked the first one, but I have to take the next one, and at this point, I didn't want to risk getting farmed down, so I switched to Umbreon, and even though I'm in a losing situation at a shield disadvantage and energy disadvantage, watch what happens. I overcharged, partly to go for the double up, partly because I was anticipating the sack there, and because of that, I'm able to really farm down that Frost Blast and have a ton of energy to take down this Vespiquen eventually. The Snarl Foul Play combo just pumps out charge moves to really apply pressure, and then at this point, I could have just snarled down. It might have been the better play here since they still had the shield. Instead, I tried sacking the pseudo, but it was CMP tie, so I actually survive another X Scissors, and then the double up, this time I do sack the Sudowoodo, and I'm able to just snarl it down afterwards. Then I change up the lead to Pseudo in case they switch to Galvantula against Lapras, figuring I can do okay in the mirror if they stick with the same lead, and it is the Pseudo again. And like I did before, I decided to go for the double up instead of trying to see who wins CMP, and then just putting the pressure on them to decide to match shields with such low health. And now I have back-to-back Rock Slides ready and win the lead just at shield disadvantage. And here's the Galvantula, and so I get that shield advantage back, but they're able to farm me down with Volt Switch. So now I'm not in the best situation since that was my counter to it. I go with Umbreon, and I should have shielded this Bug Buzz probably. Might not have mattered because they make a great switch to Vespi here to absorb the foul play. It does allow me to switch to Lapras and try and farm it down with Ice Shards. I might have gone too greedy by going for this, but I figured I needed to store up a lot of energy to take down the Galvantula, and I should have shielded that Power Gem because now I have to shield the weaker X Scissor, and then we have the lag issue again. I should have been able to farm it down and have close to 100 energy. Instead, it was frozen there, and finally I finished it off, but not able to use the Surfs right away. Do finally get it back to back to get the last shield and then do some damage, but if I would have shielded the Power Gen, it might have been a different story. Instead, they're able to farm me down and use the discharge, finish me off, and well played. So it comes down to this. I stick with the big three using the team that got me there this cup, and after back-to-back pseudo leads, it's Venusaur. Again, it's a close IV dependent matchup, and this time instead of charging to Skull Bash and going back-to-back Surfs, I try to apply pressure right away. And combined with the Ice Shards, it's almost all the way down before they're able to go for the back-to-back Frenzy Plants. But they get it off with 1 HP as I don't use the Surf. The Silph Piggyback works before my next fast move goes through too, so I have to go 2 shields down to none. At this point I have a bad feeling about this, but I am able to get 1 shield back here with the Surf ready against the Sudowoodo, and had some energy to get to another one before I get knocked out. So I'll take it pretty low, and I switch to the mirror to counter down and mostly avoid Lapras getting farmed. Do have to take a Rock Slide, but I get some energy in so that I can use a Rock Slide of my own pretty fast against Vespiquen, and that'll of course get the last shield. Now they do a great job of counting my moves while overcharging before finishing me off as I'm about to get to another move. So I come back with Lapras to get an Ice Shard in at least and make them use up that energy. And then now we're going to be off to the races. We saw a similar situation earlier between Umbreon and Vespiquen with a potential sacrificial swap in the back, and again I'm going to keep that in mind as I'm using my moves. And it's not really worth trying for the Silph Piggyback since Fury Cutter is a 0 duration move. Throwing off the count by launching here could also help make it harder for them to sack the pseudo. I also considered using Last Resort since it's not as good damage for energy wise but does more raw damage. Now the X Scissor gets me pretty low and they do the swap. I don't panic though and go with my only win condition to snarl down so that I have a foul play ready and take the tournament. Wow. GG's to JBG Winson, and thanks as always to the Ghost Stadium Discord for running the tournament. This sweep in the last weighted cup of the season puts me back in the top 200 on Silph Arena. So as you saw, committing an elite TM paid off this time as the new Umbreon I invested in came through in the clutch.